Welcome to episode 3 of the TV Autopsy, slicing its way through the series you love. My name is James.
My name is Deborah.
And I'm Megan.
Hello. How are we all today?
Hello. It's been a little while.
It certainly has, doesn't it? It feels, Megan, you were saying it feels like ages, doesn't it?
It does feel like ages.
Feels like years and years.
Very good
Years and
indeed. Yes, that's a little Russell T Davies reference there, which I'm sure will be littering through the podcast. Shall we get down to business?
Let's do it.
All right, then.
One.
Have we got any news? It's all kind of Disney related, really, but so for those Star Wars fans out there, the Obi-Wan Kenobi series starts soon, and I don't know about you two. Are you Star Wars fans?
I was until it decided to just completely exhaust itself.
Well, that's kind of.
I have Star Wars fatigue.
That's kind of the way I feel, to be honest. It just doesn't stop anymore, is it? We get an episode of something every week, basically. So we had The Mandalorian, which I think was okay. It's all right. And now we've got The Bad Batch, which is like a kind of CGI thing. And it's, this is now another slice, another perspective of the early days of the Empire. And I mean, for me, it's a bit too much, really. A bit over it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's about Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah. So it's got Ewan McGregor.
Ewan McGregor's revisiting this role that I thought he never would because he had such a bad experience the first time round. But I think they've assured him, haven't they, that this will be much better.
He has done many interviews saying how much better it is because you walk into the studio now and you can see all the things, whereas before they had to imagine everything.
He had to act. Yeah.
He had to do his job.
You don't do that when you're on stage, do you? No, you don't imagine that things are there and not there.
Do you think that because just linking in slightly, so part of the news that's been announced in the last few weeks has been some of the Game of Thrones spin-offs, and there's at least 2 that they're filming, or at least there's one they've started filming because they've started filming certain scenes down in Cornwall near me, and then which is the way back hundreds of years before Game of Thrones, and then there's another one which I think is more contemporary to the to the Game of Thrones period, and I just wonder whether we're going to end up with a bit of fatigue around some of that as well.
Yeah,
I hope not, by the way.
No, I hope not. I mean,
I'm looking forward to it.
No, I'm interested. Yeah, because it's all very well thought out and very layered, and he's.
Well, it is. But what annoys me is that they had a really good series, a really good concept, even though George R.R. Martin hadn't got round to writing the next book. It's been about 6 years now. I mean, he's obviously enjoying himself with the whole Game of Thrones stuff, but so they were forced to kind of basically make up their own ending for the series, which he's kind of criticised a bit. But I worry that they're making like 2 at the same time. It's like something successful, and suddenly we're going to make as many as possible. Whereas, maybe just start with one of them and stuff like that. But I don't know. I'm concerned because if one's not successful, it'll all be over, won't it? I imagine.
Yeah. Well, maybe they're just hedging their bets and hoping that at least one will pan out.
And the Loki also is coming to Disney Plus, and that's kind of the other franchise that Disney own now. And again, Marvel have done a good job with all the films and stuff, but it's more of the same. It's a lot of the same thing, really. And people are obsessed with franchises these days, as opposed to being brave enough to write something completely original or something.
I think audiences just get so invested now, and they love a character and they want to see them go on.
Yeah, I guess so.
I think that is true, and that's why I have to say I'm probably more. I do tend to get more invested in TV series. So if I'm just looking to kill some time, I'd rather kill some time finding a new TV series that I like and that has potential, rather than even just potentially sitting and watching a film. Not all the time, but because I do like that extended investment
It's easier, isn't it, as well? When you start a film, there's a certain amount of kind of not concentration, but investment you have to put into it. You have to get to know the world, the characters, all that kind of stuff. But if you're kind of familiar with that, then it's slipping into an old pair of shoes. However, saying that, I went home to visit my family last week, and I watched a week's worth of Coronation Street.
Oh,
they have got a bloody Costa coffee. I'm really behind the times here, but my God.
Hang on. When was the last time you... Hang on. So you're not a regular?
No, I haven't watched it for about, maybe 8 years or something like that. A long time.
Oh, goodness me. Yeah, they've had a Costa coffee for ages.
I mean, there's a whole world there. They've got a police station. They've got a hospital.
Yeah, they've always had those, though.
They've always had a hospital and a police station, but not a purpose-built set. I mean, you could tell that those were like standing, properties on the lot.
Yes.
Barely a character I recognised.
What a shame.
It was Rita's week off, so So,
I love it.
There we go.
I've not watched it for years, I have to say.
Yeah, it was a funny week because I think there was a death of a big character. I think so. It was a week of mourning.
It was quite upsetting this week. I've not missed one episode for about 12 years now.
Wow, that's dedicated.
Dedication. Yeah. Well, I spent quite a bit of the week watching. I watched Julie Goodyear's 1982's This Is Your Life.
Let me tell you that it's not just Bette Lynch from Coronation Street they're welcoming, but helping me to say to you tonight, Julie Goodyear, this is your life.
Is it going to be a series?
Well, thank you, Jack. Thank you very much. In fact, it's bang on opening time for Britain's most famous barmaid, but this time at our West End television theatre, the Royalty, where we have a right royal welcome waiting for you.
And then I watched You Can't Sack Me, I'm Famous with Piers Morgan and Julie Goodyear, and the way they presented her life on 1982 was very different to how her life actually was. And my favourite moment was, they had the sliding doors on This Is Your Life where they revealed the big face.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't open them properly. They were like, open it and shut it up and open it and shut it. It
Wobbly set syndrome.
Oh, really was. But wow. So, yeah. All right. Anyone else got any news they want to talk about?
Yes, I've got some TV news.
Oh.
I've applied to be on a TV programme.
Oh, fun!
Exciting.
Channel 5.
Yeah.
Dogs behaving very badly.
Oh, brilliant!
Really?
You take Rhubarb on there with you.
Rhubarb and Jolene, they're as bad as each other in different ways. And I'm hoping that the lovely Graham Hall will come down and sort us all out.
Oh, I haven't seen this show, but crikey, I need to see that show.
That's brilliant.
It's a bit of a guilty pleasure for me. Any dog-related TV.
Yeah.
So dogs behaving very badly in the doghouse.
I'm
Paul,
so naive.
Paul O'Grady for the love of dogs. All of that. Love it.
Oh, good luck. Oh, gosh. Well, if you do get, obviously, on the TV, I hope you promote our podcast to
Totally.
Just have posters everywhere and stuff.
I'll keep dropping it into conversation. I hope they forget to edit it out.
We'll put it in every sentence and they won't do anything. Anything from you, Deborah?
Nothing really exciting. I've started watching a new series, which I don't know whose turn it is to choose the series for this.
It's your turn this week, so.
Well, I won't announce it then.
Right. Should spoil the surprise. This is what people hang on for. All right, so we're going to move on to Cutting Edge.
Gentlemen, we're about to enter the fascinating sphere of police work, the world of forensic medicine.
So, Deborah, you are chomping at the bit, so why don't you tell us what you've been watching?
Well, on Megan's recommendation,
Ooh.
I watched The Flight Attendant.
Yes.
And that was a jolly old romp. And it's good, and it's funny, and it's quirky. It ended a bit too quick for me, though. It was a bit too oh, was that it? Is this all over now and everyone's kind of happy and moving on with their lives? What did you think, Meg?
Well, I didn't. I think it was really fast paced in general all the way through.
Yeah.
And I was very satisfied with the ending, if I'm honest. I think it teed itself up nicely. It tied off an awful lot of the loose ends, but it left enough open for season 2, basically. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I was perfectly satisfied with the ending.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many series
If
is
you
it?
don't know, it's how many? Just the one.
Okay.
And I think it was based on a book. Was it?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know either.
Okay.
But it's basically about a sort of a flight attendant who is a bit of a wild child, kind of flies all over the place, gets drunk, parties hard, and then wakes up. I think we might have mentioned it on this show before.
Yeah.
But wakes up next to a dead body, and the fallout from that.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's fun, and she's very good.
All right. Well, I'll check.
So
it
you're
out.
the odd one out now, James.
Yeah, I know.
You need
I
to
feel
watch
compelled
it,
to watch
we
it.
both watched it and made it our
Yeah. All right. Well,
recommendation.
I'll definitely watch it for next time. Okay. How about you, Meg? What have you been watching?
Oh, well, there's a few things, but I watched on Netflix Behind Her Eyes.
Yeah, I saw that.
Did you recommend this last time, Deborah? We just
You just
reviewing
go round
each
the
other's
houses.
recommendations.
Possibly, yeah.
Do you know
Yeah.
what? It got to about, I think there were maybe 6 episodes. It got to about 5 episodes and it threw in something really left field.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, I'm not having this. No,
Uh,
do not do me
so
a dusk till dawn,
Yeah.
introduce something that you've not signposted at all. However,
yeah,
I got over it very, very quickly.
yeah.
And it was so clever, and it just has really been like,
Yeah, it does stick with you, doesn't it?
yeah,
And,
tapping away.
You say that it's not signposted, but there were moments throughout when you get that reveal in whichever episode that is, that you think back, oh yeah, I remember seeing that perspective from up above, or
Yeah,
certain
yeah,
camera angles that kind of gave you little clues.
yeah.
I think you have to be open-minded. Some people really hated it. I've spoken to various people. Some people really disliked it and thought, what? Nah, suspension of belief gone, or disbelief gone. But then there are others that, yeah, absolutely kept an open mind, went, yeah, what a brilliant twist. Oh, and then it twists again. Oh, that's fantastic.
Do you know what? It did about 3 or 4 very rapid. It kept you jumping between who's, who we rooting for, who aren't we rooting for. There was lots of flip-flopping throughout, and you're like going, oh no, they're dodgy or whatever. And then it came with an almighty doofus of a 180 somewhere.
Left at the end going, poor Adam.
Okay,
This little boy at the end.
So
yes, it's got Bono's daughter in it, and a couple of other people that you'll recognise. It's a good one. It's worth watching.
Okay, and my recommendation is a comedy. It's called Frank of Ireland. Has anyone checked this out yet?
So I've seen it advertised.
All right, so they've kind of advertised it as like the new Father Ted, but it's not. It's a little bit controversial, but just incredibly funny. The setups are so funny. So Frank is basically this kind of, he thinks he's a musician, doesn't work, lives with his mother, and he's got this kind of friend who just does everything he says, and an ex-girlfriend who, he still likes all this kind of stuff, but it's just so funny. And like one thing that stands out, there's an episode where him and his best friend, basically, for some reason, the best friend ends up wearing, he's called Doofus, the best friend, who ends up wearing the same clothes as Frank, and then starts taking on his personality throughout the episode and starts becoming horrible to him, basically. But the best bit is Brian
doing a
Gleason.
single white female.
Yeah. Brian Gleason plays Frank, and in episode 6, the final episode or something, Brendan Gleeson turns up as his mother's friend. They look just the same. And he's like, he's been around here every now and then for 33 years. And they're all, it's his birthday and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, it's just funny. Just funny. So check it out. It'll make you giggle.
Okay, that's good.
All right.
And what about flatliners? Any flatliners?
Okay, and Megan, do you want to start us off? You got anything?
No, I don't think I've got any that I would actively warn people off.
Yeah.
I would say The Third Day.
Oh, what's that?
That's Jude Law. It's been around for a little while now.
Right.
Third Day. Just it starts off all right, and then it's like this is just horse manure.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, we'll avoid that then. I've got one, and again, it's not good, but it's one of those things that I just couldn't stop watching. And I started watching the first series last year and got through the whole series, and then I just rewatched the first series and then watched the second series. It's The New Legends of Monkey, which is an Australian adaptation, and it's kind of like Power Rangers, really. It's that kind of level of intellect. However, the series 2 is better, and the main.
Oh gosh, you've got into it then.
So hold on a second.
I'm not recommending it, but I can't stop watching it. I've watched it all.
No, I was just going to say you're flatlining it, but you've watched season 1 twice.
I adore
it's not good enough that actually season 2 is even better than the one that you've just watched twice, even though it was rubbish.
Yeah, it's not great.
You have a lot of time on your hands, James.
I don't
Live your
sleep.
life.
I don't. Thanks.
Vampire.
Right. All right. So on that rather somber note, we will move on to our dissection of the month. And this series, this time, the series is Russell T Davies' It's a Sin. Let's have a clip.
So, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time?
What do you want to be doing?
What's the plan?
I just want to be happy. I want to learn everything.
I'll be stinking rich.
He's going to London.
London.
I'm getting out of here. I'll be staying at 23 Piss Off Avenue, London, W fuck.
The districts, and like us, have always been hidden away in secret. But then there's the real world.
There's a million pubs and things. I love it here. I came to London and I thought, great, I can be gay.
We're gonna party every night.
Morning.
Have you seen this?
He said, she said, they said. They're always saying something.
They think it's this virus, AIDS.
All right, so let me give you some information about it. Deborah, Megan, pipe up if I get any of this wrong.
Okay.
It was released, it came out from January and February of this year, 2021. The creator, writer, and showrunner was Russell T Davies, who was famous for Press Gang, Queer as Folk, Doctor Who, bringing back Doctor Who, Cucumber, and Years. I think is his CV.
Yep. Very good. Spot on.
The director was Peter Hoare, and Rich Tozier was played by Ollie Alexander. Amari Douglas was Roscoe. Callum Scott Howells was Colin. Lydia West was Jill Baxter, and Nathaniel Curtis was Ash. There's been no spin-offs, and it's was on Channel 4, and you can still watch it on Channel 4.
Yes.
Okay. Who wants to give a synopsis?
I can add to it. So there are 5 episodes. based from between 1981 to 1991, depicting the lives of a group of gay men and their friends who lived during the HIV/AIDS crisis in the UK. Interestingly enough, the BBC and ITV declined to develop the series. And actually, Channel 4 did as well initially, until certain members of people that were in power at the time had moved on. And so they fought for it. Channel 4 fought for it. It was meant to be 8 episodes, but they let him have, well, they said, you've got to have 4, and he pushed for 5. So there were, there is a bit of a longer piece, a longer game going on that Russell T Davies had to sort of chop out, chop it down to 5 episodes. But interesting that they turned it down because they felt that the content was tricky, problematic, and you kind of want to question why they thought that. Now, given that 19 million people have seen the series,
I am absolutely shocked about that. I mean, look, for me, I think this is one of the most powerful TV series I've ever seen. I'm a massive fan of Russell T Davies' work. I think he's got a real skill at writing character, situations, and making you feel like you know those people and go on their journey with them. He does great set pieces, and you're just engaged. But it's so sensitively done, and I'm just appalled at anybody turning this down, especially after the success he's had. I was
just going to say, he's got the most amazing track record. Why on earth would you?
Yeah. I mean, I was having conversations with Laurie about this and saying, why would they turn something like this down? Why is this so problematic? And, we were discussing that maybe it's because the generation that we are now and the times that we are now in, that the way that parents of those days may feel vilified, they're probably more ashamed now as to how they reacted and how they acted.
Good.
But they didn't know, they didn't know, and so on. It's and all the layers that go with that, with the neglect and the cruelty and the disowning and all that sort of stuff. But
none of that. I mean, there's so much so much challenging TV, and that's what Channel 4 is all about. And
it should be.
I have to say, one of the. I completely agree with everything you said, James. But one of the disappointments for me was that it was only 5 episodes. I was so ready to be much more invested and see more of different characters' evolutions and journeys, etc., etc. So I think it was such excellent television. It's a real shame that you had to fight so hard to get the 5.
We'll get into it. I think we can do this one episode by episode, probably. But just to say as well, the bits where you see parents who won't touch their child or all that kind of stuff, but you also see the progression of that as well. For all her faults, Richie Tozier's mother and how she reacted when she found out and all that kind of stuff, showed a kind of progression. I mean, she did a lot that was wrong.
Oh, I didn't take that at all. I thought she was.
I'm talking about maybe the physical stuff, when she comes in and says, "You're not contagious," and kisses her son and stuff like that, which was very different to maybe episode 1 when people were locked in hospitals. I know,
but I think we do need to talk about some of these things. But I took from Richie's mum, played by Keely Hawes, who I thought was excellent.
Yeah.
I all of that, I think everything just came from a deep-rooted denial about everything. So not just denial about who her son was, but that you're not contagious. That was from an entirely denial-based position as well. I thought there were some really enchanting responses, but they were limited, and in the whole, I think that generation really, it was quite distressing to watch and think about all of these young lads who escaped the constraint of unaccepting families, found their tribe in London, and only to then, at the point where they most need the support and love of the people who understand them for who they are, they get carted back to their family and denied the essence of who they were, and I just found that absolutely
devastating,
wrenching.
Yeah.
Look, I came out a couple of years ago. I could relate to a lot of the kind of things that Richie's character was going on about, and also at the end, I know we're jumping right to the end, but you know, that brilliant bit with Jill. You know, I've watched it twice, and at first I was kind of thinking, you know, where's Jill's life in this? And actually, you know, she really hit the nail on the head about, you know, he murdered people because of his guilt and his shame and all that kind of stuff. And I felt loads of that for years, and you know, and he just has a way of hitting the nail on the head. And wow,
with Jill, and it's interesting what you say about where's her life in all of this. So Russell T Davies' childhood friend is called Jill Nulder, and so the series is based on how she lost 3 friends within the space of 18 months, and lived in the Pink Palace, and you know, and some parents, she said, you know, would never found out, and actually, the character Jill in the series, her mother is Jill Nulder.
Yeah.
Oh wow!
You see in the last.
Well, Russell T Davies, when I heard him being interviewed, and the story is about the AIDS epidemic and the discovery of it in the UK being told from a British perspective, whereas mostly it's from most of what we've seen historically was around the US response.
US, like Philadelphia and so on.
Yeah. And Angels in
America.
Which is an amazing play. I saw that national couple of years back.
But what I listened to an interview with Russell T Davies, and really Jill was the central premise of the whole series, and his friend Jill and her response to it, and her the way she responded.
And I think with Jill and where is her life in all of this, and yes, it's based on her experience and what she went through, but you know, Jill's this sort of, you know, lovely den mother, selfless kind of saint, you know, she's the epitome of womanhood, but I did feel that she deserved a life beyond being a carer. You know, she's this activist, she's you know, she goes and takes warm food around to people, she's you know, she goes and visits hospital and sits on phone lines. She's like this sort of death doula, constantly working in service for someone else. And it's funny. It's almost like an apology at the end, because when Keely Hawes at that speech at the end says, "Oh, you're just a chorus girl running around after these boys with no life of your own," and she kind of sort of says, "Well, it's not about me." So it's almost like an apology. It's just like this device of this sort of storytelling, but ultimately it is about her, because it's you know, she hates herself for having to sort of scrub get her marigolds on, and you know, she's the one that's getting the publications or getting aware about casual sex, and you know.
Wasn't it wonderful though? How, I mean, I get your point, Megan, about wanting more, but the fact that we got 5 episodes meant that it was kind of condensed down into these kind of 2-year gaps. So
pretty punchy.
So the first episode, I mean, I think all you hear about with the epidemic is just people in the background talking. I mean, I think there's somebody talking in the pub or something, but there's nothing actually said in that group of friends. But you, obviously, with the wonderful character of Colin, we get to meet the even more wonderful shopping is made from the shop. And I mean,
Neil Patrick. What was
Patrick Harris?
Yeah, what was, I can't remember his character's name.
I can't remember, but yeah.
Could we just mention his terrible English accent though?
Was that his boyfriend? Sorry.
Affectation. No, his boyfriend was Brazilian or Portuguese? Can't remember now.
Oh, well, I thought it was English. Okay, but I mean, he's so good at getting you to invest in a character over a very few scenes. You know, the fact that he came in and basically rescued him from the old shop attendant, and then they had that wonderful scene at dinner and in the pub. And
pub, I love the pub.
Yep.
And then, you know, just hearing again in conversation, he's just going, they think he's got it from a bird, but birds don't get, you know, and it's like, oh my God, it's awful.
Yeah, and actually, what Russell T Davies said, he said that there's no need to, he felt that it said what it needed to say. There are more stories out there and more stories are required to be told. But he did say that I want to have an episode, and it's not written and it never will be probably, where we visit Jill when she's aged 55 and what's happened sort of in between time. That would have been part of it, but it's not going to happen. He doesn't feel the need to continue to do a resus.
Right. Right. Just coming. So let's just talk about our actors a little bit, because I saw Jill in Years and Years, and I
saw her in Dracula.
Okay, and I did not like her performance, really, to be honest.
No, and I did not like her performance in Dracula either. Yeah. I felt some of her
in It's a Sin.
In It's a Sin, yeah. I thought she nailed it. I really liked it personally. I
thought she was the weakest thing in it.
Right. Okay.
I felt that we needed a stronger. I thought it was a brilliant role. I think we needed a stronger actress. There were times when I just didn't believe her crying.
Okay.
Sadly.
All right.
Yeah. I think she's got the opposite to me. I've got kind of like resting bitch face, and she's got resting happy face, and so actually she's got this sort of like default little smile, so she's very attractive and cute, but I just there were a few little points, and I wouldn't want to beat her up about this at all, because it genuinely is one of the most amazing TV events I've ever watched. But it did make me laugh that, like, sometimes in some of those real somber moments I was looking and go, oh, she definitely doesn't have the resting bitch face.
Where's the truth? I was looking for the truth behind her eyes rather than just sort of, I don't know. Yeah.
So let's talk about the other characters. So how about let's get on to Ollie Alexander. Yeah. Did anyone see his performance at the Brits?
We did. Yes, we did.
So did you see it, Megan? He did It's a Sin with Elton John on the piano.
So it was like I think the Pet Shop Boys produced that version. And Elton John's on the piano, and Ollie Alexander is writhing on the piano, and it's a very slow start, and then it starts kicking in.
Very theatrical.
And Ollie is extremely, what's the word? Voracious in his dance moves. Like, he is properly going for it without any kind of nothing.
No inhibitions there.
No, I mean, he isolates those hips amazingly. Did very well.
Megan, what did you think about his performance?
Oh, I thought he was brilliant. I mean, in general, I thought I just loved the evolution of all the characters over the various episodes, right from the very originating, you see them all basically leaving home.
Yes.
So what they are
and
to
what
begin
like
with,
at home. Yeah.
And how they find themselves, and I think his transition into that, and he was one of the big doom and gloomers, or not doom and gloomers, naysayers, about whether or not this was something to be worried about, and he just didn't care, and he went off and had that phenomenal monologue, montage.
I mean, that's an amazing. That was amazing.
Yeah, and I think last month when we were talking about the one, and I was like going, I never hear the music in TV. All of the music, it's really difficult to take one person's performance in a role, because they all fed off each other.
Yeah,
and I just thought he was brilliant.
He was excellent, and he was incredibly brave. All those sex scenes and wash your bum, and absolutely brilliant. And
sorry, definitely go on. I was just going to say, just on the music, it was interesting that the only track that they didn't really play was It's a Sin. So there was a bit where where he's on the jukebox, and he plays the introduction of it, which is all very choir, isn't it? And it goes and then it ends.
No, lots of queer anthems in there. Erasure, loads of 80s hits like Culture Club, Blondie, Kate Bush. Properly.
It was
throwing it all in there.
Because this is I was at school. I remember the Tombstone, AIDS, advert, all of that, and just had no concept
And
of everything that came before that. That was the beginning of the AIDS epidemic for me.
Yeah.
Whereas that was only just one step in it for the community that was most affected by it.
Yeah.
But these are all the music of my childhood. It was just amazing. It was just wonderful to watch.
And I think because it touches a certain community and age of people, of a generation, for us, it didn't hit us. We were kids. We were aware of it. We saw it on the telly. We might have asked our parents questions about it. I certainly did. I remember watching that advert and then going to my dad, "Dad, what's a condom?" And him having to explain what that is. Because, I was terrified of this advert and I needed to know how was I going to protect myself. I've got to protect myself. I've got to use a condom. Dad, what's a condom? But, when you think about the people that it did touch, this certain generation of people, and as well as a lot of Black Africans, because that was another thing. There were two disconnected groups: gay men and people from Africa that were coming over here that faced this kind of racism and misogyny and homophobia, and apparently in those days, if you were a Black African, you were never asked, as you would you were never asked if you had sex with men. It was just presumed that you'd picked up the disease from Africa and you came over here and spreading it around. Yeah.
And look, just to get back to this, I mean, I think Russell T Davies kind of covers that in a different way very well. I mean, I think he's a bit of a master of exposition. So he manages to get a lot of information across with very little, and I'm now going to explain where we are 2 years later. And so, and obviously like wonderful things like just that la, that's a group of friends. And you are in on that joke and you love it. And just I learned all about HIV really from EastEnders, I think, from the Mark Fowler storyline, which I thought was really brave at the time. And that taught me quite a bit about it. Can we just talk about, because I think Ash, it was the most probably underused character, and I wonder if he was a victim of these episodic cuts, because he was there, but
he didn't have the same.
He had a small bit in the school, which I thought would have been expanded upon, probably.
We don't know what his job was either, did we?
Teacher, wasn't he?
He became out of college. Oh, yeah, of course he was. Yeah, that's right. They was looking through the library, the whole Section 28 thing.
Yeah.
About not being able
really. That was all he did, except a bit of a love interest.
Yeah.
What about what's his name? Roscoe.
Oh, I love Roscoe.
Roscoe runs away when his father threatens to send him off to Nigeria. I think that this could easily have been a series full of caricatures, and I think they did. I think they've done well to they're more. You empathise with them more, and especially the whole fear. It's quite timely. The fear of and an uncertainty of this unknown emergence of this disease. We can understand it from that kind of perspective. With Roscoe, he has reconciliation, he has redemption at the end. He goes back to his family, and they all sort of kiss and make up.
But looking at the family, the first time we meet them, I think what the other thing he does as well is it's almost, certainly with that family, kind of like a comic book. The characters are slightly accentuated, a little bit larger than life. They're all sitting around that table, and you've got the mother praying, and then you've got, one of the sister aunts starts laughing when he comes down in his dress and stuff. And it's like, that's like 2 minutes into the bloody programme or something. And you're character. It's very, very clever. Well done.
I mean, I think it's he went from, he just went totally not OTT. I mean, he went whatever, but the extreme that he launched himself out of that house was just, I was totally rooting for him. It was excellent. I bet he froze his butt off filming that.
All right, Deborah.
Yeah.
I want to talk about Colin.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Colin, well, he's just so wonderful, isn't he? He is the Savile Row tailor's apprentice, and he's staying with a family, and that's probably got to be one of the set pieces, isn't it? That reveal. I think we knew that there was something going on with the sort of little flashbacks to the guy that the son that lives in the house that he's lodging at.
Well, I had no idea. I mean, when he collapsed, when
he had his
my
his
God,
epilepsy.
it was like because Russell T Davies had killed off a character every episode except episode 4, I think. And this was episode 3, so I was kind of
because
expecting...
we lost Gloria in number 1, didn't we?
I was
Gregory.
I was wondering who's going to be the victim this week, and I was not expecting it to be Colin. He's such a happy chap.
I did expect Colin to get it. His mother was just adorable, wasn't she? And one of the only parents really that
accepted her child. Yeah.
And doing what she could, and being, she wasn't able-bodied, was she? She was in the wheelchair, wasn't she?
Yeah.
So doing what she could in order to, speak to the authorities, and then they got the stroppy lesbian solicitor involved.
I found it. I think that was the hardest bit. Maybe not the hardest, but it was certainly one of the hardest, and I was like, I had no idea that's how the early sufferers of AIDS were treated. It was horrendous.
Yeah.
And it was a real eye opener. It was excellent in an awful way.
Yeah.
I mean, are we talking about that bedside scene? Where we're so
he's locked in, he's locked away on his own, and
and they say there's a lot of reports because between, I think it was 16 to 34-year-olds were the ones that watched this the most, I think, out of any other age group, and they were saying that a lot of these younger generation, they just cannot believe that this happened. But even in our generation, you think, God, that is shocking how they were just left and locked up in rooms and not allowed to see anybody, and were just dying a lonely death with not even a nurse beside them.
And seeing Colin's fate following on from I'm really sorry, I can't remember Neil Patrick Harris's character's name, but having seen and thinking that was just a bit of a quirky one, but actually then realising that it was systematically done.
It continues, and it's not just the establishment of, and there's a lot of the establishments, like, whether it was the NHS or the government, that were like, but it's also, the financial services as well, all that kind of, oh God, yeah. When they would write out, would apply for a mortgage, they have to say what sexuality they were, all, and whether they had an AIDS test. It's just unfathomable now. But that reminder that they did do that. I remember they did do that.
A lot of information.
Whereas the younger generation completely shocked.
A lot of information coming through in an accessible way. Oh, Megan, sorry.
I think just on the Colin side, I again, just the journey he went on, though, like, making it over to New York, and unfortunately with his nasty boss, and he was just...
Who got his comeuppance.
Yeah.
He got arrested,
yes, that was a nice little scene.
For some kind of cottaging in a toilet or something.
Right. Listen,
but very sad for him to have been let go like that.
I wanted just to move on and just talk a little bit about the end, I think, because Tracy Ann Oberon, who played the agent, I thought she was great as well. Wonderful cameo, really. But she kept saying, when boys go home, they don't come back. And Richard gone home, and she went, "You're going to say goodbye," and again, heartbreaking. How do we think how the portrayal of that family? Did it work? I mean, the ending floored me. I was not expecting it to that bit on the pit, looking out to sea. You know, when Jill met the mother.
Yeah, do you know, from the point that Richie goes home, it was just devastating, and his mum was. It was all about her reaction to it. It was not about him. I mean, when she was talking to him about. Was it a mouse lived in a windmill or something?
The mouse. Yeah, the childhood song, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and that was that really resonated, along with, was it Gloria, who went home and his family were just so horrendous, and it just made me reflect that, you know, like I said earlier, these lads who had found their tribe in London and then end up going home and just it not being about them anymore. It's about how their families coped with it or reacted to it, and it utterly devastated me. And I'm not a big crier at telly. I was sobbing.
My friend was in this show. She was the brother. She was the sister of Gregory, Gloria. So the first one guy. Yes, the Scottish. But Dad, why is she wearing rubber gloves? Should we not be wearing rubber gloves?
That's good.
That was my friend.
Once again, I find it very hard to find a badly cast person. I liked all the casting myself.
Yeah.
I think maybe we should move on to talk about the big five.
By the way, I was just going to say that apparently Ollie is under the under the impression that he was the only one that auditioned for Richie. He was always going to be earmarked for it.
That's something you should go around telling people. Really,
I think that's a nice thing. Well, you think about the fact that Russell T Davies had him in mind for this role.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, but I think maybe it's
not for you to tell the world. That's for Russell T Davies to say. Yeah,
exactly. I was the only one they had in mind, darling. All right, so Deborah, what are our big five?
The big five, performance, the series.
Right. So, what do you think, Megan?
So that it is really hard, but I had Keeley Hawes at the end on the pier.
Yeah, that's really hard. Keeley Hawes was amazing. Callum was amazing. Ollie, Richie was amazing. I just want to point out that his speech was so incredibly good, because he was talking about how it's the perfect virus to confirm people's homophobia, and actually it wasn't really so much of the homophobic government than it was the actual young men themselves that were dragging their feet to get tested, because with his speech it was hard for them to accept the existence of something that validates their beliefs, the belief that this is a gay disease, this is a gay cancer. So that speech was fantastic, and I think Ollie was, I think, probably the bravest of all of them in what he did throughout the series. But yeah, it's a hard one to call. Keeley was amazing, and Colin was just so lovely.
Yeah, for me, I'm gonna say. No, I'm going to give everyone a bite of the cherry. I'm going to say Roscoe, just because I loved his character. I loved his performance. Yeah. I loved and also the kind of bravery, when he thought that Gloria had just abandoned him, and, how he had to have been abandoned all his life, and to make up be that brave. And then obviously the wonderful storyline that went on with Stephen Fry, which we haven't even touched upon, it was great. Roscoe.
And actually, he himself, the actor, said,
Mary Douglas.
He said when he went off to do research, he said there's hardly any documentation of Black gay life in the 1980s, and it just seems that It's a Sin is the only thing really that is now documenting Black gay history. So, 30 years on.
To say on that point as well, Russell T Davies was a big supporter of BME representation in Doctor Who, and I heard an interview with him where basically, in order to effectively do representation, you have got to over-represent by about 40%. So say like there's 15% BME in your country, you need to have at least 30% on the television to get that balance right to start with. And it's hard to think back, but that he brought Doctor Who back in 2005, and that's nearly 20 years, and a lot has changed on the face of TV. There's so many black faces and gay faces, all that kind of stuff.
He said that he wanted to cast openly gay performers to create a safe space where gay actors could voluntarily come and be themselves.
Yeah,
so that's what the show is about. And did you know that his Doctor Who bit, that was a tribute to Dursley McClendon, who was in Doctor Who, and he died at the age of 30 from AIDS.
Yeah, he played a sergeant in Remembrance of the Daleks. A very good performance, really. In season 25, I think. So there we go. Although it was earthbound in the 1960s, not on a spaceship. It looked more like Resurrection of the Daleks, but we are getting carried away with ourselves. All right, what's the next on the big five, please, Deborah?
We don't. Set piece.
Okay.
So
I
suppose the big speech. Yep.
All right. I was thinking about the big speech, but I am going to say the bit on the pier, the bit on the by the waterfront at the end, just shockingly powerful. Blew me away. So,
I've got that written down, and also the reveal of how Colin got infected.
Yeah. How about you, Megan?
And Wash Your Bum. Wash Your Bum was good as well.
Do you know what? All of those, but I also, on my very long list of set pieces, Jill visiting all the dying men in hospital. Oh my God.
Oh, it's awful. All right, what's next?
Just devastating. Next is effect of the series. Well, there weren't really any effects, were there?
No, but
bit of makeup here and there.
Saying that, right? I've got
costume.
one. I've got one. So when the mother appears at the hospital, and she sees her son and she finds out what's going on, I think from the moment she leaves that room, the camera stays on her the whole time. So it follows her into the. I'm not saying it's a one shot, but it's pretty much follows her into the kitchen, and you have that whole scene with the other mother. You don't even know what your own son was like, love. And then down the hallway, back to the father that's crying, and it just is there.
Yes.
And
I remember the bit.
Go through a whole world of emotions from shock. She goes through the whole process of grief, actually, to coming back to Richie and say,
that was very
"You're my
clever.
son."
Yeah.
And that's why I not forgave her, but I understood. She loved him, and she made many mistakes, but so that was my effect.
Yeah, that's a good shout. Good shout. That's a good call.
All right, what's that?
Okay, number 4, the stupid factor. I don't think there was a stupid factor, really. I believed it.
No.
Apart from maybe when Ollie turns up to the rally, the protest, and jumps on the back. Oh, I'm here, and the music goes. Woo, I've come to save the day. Oh, I've got arrested.
But then you
silly.
But then you forgive it because of the scene inside the van.
Oh yes, don't.
When he's bleeding, don't touch me. I'm
bleeding.
Oh,
yeah.
God.
Don't touch me.
But yeah, I agree. It was a bit daft. But again, you can't help thinking, I wonder if there was more time for that. They'd have developed that a bit more, and have we got one more, Deborah?
The resuscitation, which we've kind of sort of touched on anyway, haven't we? That
Jill when she's 55.
Yeah, and actually, he's not going to write anymore. There's a lot of story. He's packed in a lot.
It's the sort of thing you'd have to do it. He could have written more at the time, but you can't. I don't think you could go back and add more now.
No.
However,
and then final thoughts.
I just wanted to say just on that. Sorry. However, it was nice to finish on the scene where they're all in the park and he's doing his monologue and soliloquy, and the seagull comes and eats his ice cream. You know, it just reminds you.
That's right. Yeah.
Because there's a lot. I mean, we've talked about all the dark bits, but there was a lot of funny bits in it. Yeah, it was funny.
It's that life in London that they're up to. And interestingly enough, the La T-shirt, that's already raised 100,000 for Terence Higgins.
Oh wow! That's
and the show itself has been credited with raising HIV awareness and the massive upsurge in testing.
Yeah, I mean,
good. I think you're right though, James. We have focused a lot on the awfulness of it, but actually, there's
it's commemorating.
It's just joyous. Huge parts of it are totally joyous,
and it's and I think because you love the characters, that's why it's so dark. God, Deborah, sorry.
Yeah, no, I agree. You've got two words: joyful and devastating, and it's commemorating a generation who's lost their lives to this illness, that were vibrant and also, you know, this pursuit of pleasure. That it's I think maybe they should have made it clearer that it's not that was never the problem, that sex is not the virus, but I mean, that's what I was,
Richie does that.
There's that fine line, isn't there?
Sorry, Richie does that scene at the end with his mum, doesn't he? Where he talks about all the guys that he's been with and that he loved every minute of it and stuff like that. Yeah. Which kind of touches on that. But yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Right. But I think with the awareness factor and bringing this back into our consciousness, they do say that there are still, queer communities where they are sitting with 30 years of PTSD because the stigma is still so internalized. And actually, I read, the Reverend Richard Coles, he was saying in terms of, and this was shocking when I read this, that the Sun would routinely phone Jimmy Somerville up, Jimmy Somerville from Bronski Beat Communards, who Reverend Richard Coles was in a band with, and Andy Bell from Erasure, and would say and threaten them that they would run stories on them to say that they are HIV positive unless they produced negative tests. And this was a routine calls from the Sun. So you just, you can imagine that all these establishments, I know we're wanting to finish this off, but I just still find it so shocking that you've got the government and the NHS and financial services and the media and then your parents, that are so hateful and so cruel and so neglectful. And what we're missing, and I think this is missing from the 8 episodes that could have been, is suddenly the government is this single force of support and help, and the MPs seem suddenly all very clued up about it. Where did that information come from? Where did that transition
came from Roscoe,
happen?
didn't it? That's
Roscoe pissing in Maggie's tea. You just wonder, because Princess Diana did a lot to alter perceptions, didn't she? She changed. She had it was the most impactful. But there's this kind of disconnect between what was going on in the 80s and then suddenly it's 1991, and everyone's a little bit more with it. And actually, he dies in the November 91, which is when Freddie Mercury died. I thought that was an interesting kind of.
It's just reminded me of, there's an episode of Doctor Who in series 2, which would be 2006, where Rose Tyler, Billie Piper, says to the Doctor, talking about someone, she goes, "Oh, you're so gay." That was written by Russell T Davies. And obviously putting things like that in, but having gay representation with Captain Jack and Doctor Who, that's the sort of thing that has changed the perception and got people talking. But, let's not forget, we haven't come that far if, like, the BBC and ITV and more or less Channel 4 nearly refused to produce this, Yeah. Final thoughts. I've only got one, and it is La.
I say a must-watch educational documentation piece that touches on things very efficiently on so many layers and aspects of the time and of the crisis.
Good thoughts. Megan?
Oh, my little one. I think we should have stopped on La. To be fair, that's the best way to end it. However,
Can we re-edit that?
my final thought was, when I was watching that last episode, and I said I don't normally cry like that at telly, but I was properly sobbing to the point that the dogs were lying on the floor, and Jolene was chewing a, I don't know, antler or something, and she heard me do my. And she looked at me and she came up and she sat next to me and made me hold her paw while I watched the rest of the episode.
That's so cute.
You hear that, Columbo?
That's very cute.
All right, look, we've been talking about an hour, so I think we should score it. All right, so storyline and plot. I'm giving it a 10. Megan?
I was on a 9.
I'm on a 9 as well.
Okay. Characterization and performances. Megan?
10.
Lovely. Deborah?
I would have given it 9, but I'm giving it 8 because of Jill.
Okay. Look, I'm giving it another 10. I just liked all the performances, I have to be honest. Deborah, style?
9.
Okay, gets an 8 from me.
9.
Wow, high scoring. Originality, look, 10. Can't give it another myself. Megan?
9.
9 for me.
Okay. And absorption factor. Deborah?
Well, I watched it all in one night back in March, so 10.
Okay.
Yeah, 10 for me. It was just
completely
absorbing.
It's high scoring, guys. All right, so I give it a 48. Megan, what did you get?
45.
Deborah,
47.
45. All right, so it gets a TV autopsy BPM of 93.3%. Bloody hell. That's going to be hard to beat, guys.
That's the top scoring now.
It's going to struggle.
It's higher than the Terror.
Yeah, which came in at 76.7, so a massive jump. I mean, wow. It's going to be a while, I think, before we get to those dizzy heights again. However, Deborah, I think
what's next?
Your turn to choose. And if you say Line of Duty, I'm going to kill you because it's like 8 series.
No, I'm not going to say that. I have started, and I'm on about to start episode 4 of The Mayor of Easttown.
Yes.
Actually, it's not called The Mayor. It's just called Mayor.
Called Mayor of Easttown.
Not Mayor, but Mayor, as in nightmare.
Right. So tell me, is it a cartoon?
No,
she was just.
I was doing a horse noise.
Mayor of Easttown, where can we find that?
Mayor of Easttown is Sky Atlantic, and it's starring Kate Winslet and Guy Pearce and a few other people that you might recognise. And it's. Do you want me to say anything more, or
is it what? Gee, I think that's enough for now. Is it one series?
Yes, so far.
Lovely. All right. Okay, just give us a little teaser.
Small town America. Kate Winslet is a hard-assed detective. Things happen in town. She goes, investigates. She has layers of backstory as well.
All right, wonderful. Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to that. All right, guys.
I'm actively watching it already.
What episode are you on?
I've just watched the latest one that came out yesterday.
Oh, you're not watching it all in one go? Is it?
They're releasing it an episode at a time.
Oh, really? Oh, so how many episodes are there?
I think there's only 1 or 2 more.
We'll be all right. I am sure we'll get through it.
I'm on 4. So how many have you seen?
I think there may be 8 in total.
Okay.
We'll be fine.
Okay.
All right, girls. Thank you very much.
Brilliant.
See you next time.
Thank you.
Oh, don't go away yet.